It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Dude, I rewatched this game. It's so much better than other games that I've seen and for this series. The gameplay itself was just really good.
It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. It's
like start to mind the fact that there's some controversy surrounding the fourth quarter,
right? Which
we'll get to, but just the quality of play in this game was excellent. And these two teams are just so goddamn good.
Oh, so good. So good. Which I guess leads me to, did the better team win? And I think we'll unpack that a little bit throughout the episode. But my takeaway is from this game they did. From Game 6 they did. And I think we might differ there. I'm not sure how much will go into the game itself, but just Game 6, Kobe and Shaq were so dominant, and although I felt like the Kings had certainly a deeper roster, I just felt like those two at that point were almost like at their peaks.
Yeah.
So I can't say that the Kings were the better team with those two on the Lakers roster, but very interested to hear your opinions on it.
So here's my opinion. I don't totally know where I stand. Do you think there's a difference between the right team winning a playoff series or a championship and the better team?
Yeah.
Winning? Do you think that those two things can be different?
Absolutely. I think that in the moment, that team worked better, right? It's the overall, maybe not the better team, but in the moment, everything kind of was just coming together. And I think that you've seen that throughout, the history of the league and in other sports too. Not always the best team, but it's that team that year that's clicking. It's right. So I do think that there is a difference.
That's kind of where I landed. I think that the right team won this series, won this game, and won the championship in 2002. I don't know that the Lakers were a better team than the Kings, though. And that could possibly have something to do with my own personal biases just regarding the way that these two teams play.
Absolutely.
Like the actual on-court product, the aesthetic appeal of watching both the Kings and the Lakers. But that's where I landed, is I agree with you. I think the Lakers were the right team. They had the two best players in the series, arguably the two best players in the world at that point in time. Yep. Kobe had gotten there by 2002. But there was just something about that Kings team, man.
Oh, yeah.
I love rewatching them. I actually did some extra credit ahead of this game. I watched Game 5 too. I've seen Game 7. I rewatched that one in the past, and I actually wrote about it. We have Game 6 as our game today. Game 6, 2002 Western Conference Finals. But I haven't rewatched Game 5, so I watched Game 5. a few things. It was Peja's first game of the series. And I think people, that's like a forgotten fact from this Kings run, is that Peja was their second leading scorer. I would say their third most important player. Mm-hmm. And he didn't play the first 4 games of the series. And he clearly wasn't right when he came back. I think they rushed him back from an ankle sprain. But he wasn't right yet.
No, not at all. And actually, I was going to say in Game 6, although he played, and I know he came back Game 5, Game 6 he played, but he didn't play a ton of minutes. And in the second half, they kind of had to go, to my man Bobby Jackson, because Peja, he just wasn't effective. He wasn't, efficient. He wasn't scoring. So yeah, that was definitely something that stuck out, and the injury I don't think is probably talked about when covering this series. It's almost a forgotten little nugget, so for sure.
So that stood out, and that was something that I hadn't remembered. Another thing that stood out, Arco Arena, early 2000s, games in Sacramento with the cowbells, is just an absolutely bonkers atmosphere to watch a playoff game.
Absolutely.
It actually feels like you're watching a college game.
Yes.
With that crowd.
Yep. And that
made the whole experience. What's that?
And the Lakers rivalry too. I felt like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, these two teams were such great foils for one another. Just the way that they're built, the way that they play, the way that they're constructed. Just so much fun. It did feel like a college kind of rivalry with like the absolute best quality of play you could ask for from a game in 2002. The third thing that stood out to me, and this was probably my biggest takeaway from Game 5, and it informed my rewatch of Game 6. Mike Bibby was a fucking killer.
He was very good.
In Game 5.
He was very good.
He made every single big shot or big play that the Kings needed him to. He steadied them when things were getting a little out of control. He had an answer for like 3 or 4 different times when on the other end, Shaq just put Vlade or Scott Pollard into the bucket. Bibby would come down and steady the offense, get a good look, hit the shot. There was a sequence near the end of the game where he got a big defensive rebound in traffic. The Kings were down by 1. He went to the other end and drew Shaq's 6th foul of the game. Fouled Shaq out with about 2 minutes left. Then he hits 2 free throws with under a minute to go to cut the Lakers' lead to 1. And then he hits the game-winning shot.
Coming down to the final seconds, as did game number 4. But the Lakers have a 1-point lead. Weber back to Bibby, has the open shot.
The stakes at Game 5 Western Conference Finals, and you have Kobe on the other end taking the shot to potentially win it, but it's Bibby who comes through. I just came away so impressed with him. And the team in general. The Kings, we'll get to it, and they were just so much fun.
Yes, and what I'll say is I think that all started right around the time that Adelman joined. But the one main difference, really, was they started this little run with Jason Williams. They trade Jason Williams after the 2001 playoff to bring in Bibby. And I felt like he really did a good job of steadying the ship. I know, and just through research, Williams was, which I think we all know, he lacks a little bit of the shooting that Bibby had, and he was also a little erratic with the ball. Erratic with the ball. So
we could say he's erratic too. He was creative as hell. That's for sure. Yeah. Erratic. I would say both.
Yeah. So Although, like Bibby, though, he only averaged, I think, like 14 and 5 through the year. But he got 16 MVP votes in the 2002 season, and I think it was just he really meshed with the Kings roster and the way they were able to. All five guys could pass, all five guys could score, and obviously special. But yeah, Bibby, he definitely was, the straw to stir the drink, and he got the Kings in a really good place.
And I think a lot of people, if you just asked casual basketball fans nowadays, with like highlight culture being so big, specifically with the NBA, I think people would look at that trade and wonder why Sacramento made the deal.
Hmm.
Because the Jason Williams highlights are just so much fun. They're erotic. They turn you on.
That's a fact.
He was erratic with the ball, but but Bibby just made the whole thing work a little better because you could play him off the ball. The ball didn't always need to be in his hands. And to your point, he only averaged, I think you said 14 points per game in the regular season. That bumped up to 20 in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
He averaged 20 points per game during that playoff run, and they were going to him in every big moment. It wasn't even really Weber who was getting like the late game big nut crunch shots. It was Bibby who they were relying on in those moments.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I don't know how far we'll dig into the corner offense, but a lot of that, the offense really was designed. Although they played, Weber was kind of their hub, and he played out of the elbow with Vlade. But a lot of their scoring actions was Bibby either coming off a down screen or like a DHO. And they really wanted him to get into the lane, and he had a really good mid-range jumper. Um, and that offense was smooth. So yeah, he took a lot of those shots though, and a lot of those shots were really designed for him. Even though
Mhm.
kind of they played through Weber, he was really their scorer in the clutch, and then obviously you had guys that could play off of dribble drives with Peja and Hidu. But he was super effective in their offense. He had a really really almost like automatic 15-foot pull up jumper. That was it.
It was a little like Chris
Yes,
Paulish.
yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was awesome for that team.
To your point about Adelman and the corners offense, I have a lot to say about Adelman, but just the construction of this team, it was a team perfectly built to be able to play this style. You have the two bigs who you mentioned, Weber and Vladi, playing at the elbows, who were kind of the hubs of the offense. And you have so much movement off ball. You have the dribble handoffs. And to a man, everyone on that team was super selfish or super unselfish. They were always looking to make the extra pass, find the open guy. So it makes sense that like you watch this team from 2002 and comparing it to like the more modern Warriors offense, there's shared DNA between those two teams, and Kerr has even said it. He said, I looked this up. His first game as the Warriors head coach was against Sacramento, and Doug Christie was doing, I think he was a color commentator for the Kings at the time, and he asked Kerr before the game, what's your offense going to look like? You have experience in the triangle with Pop, like. And Kerr came back and said, it's actually going to look a lot like what you ran with Rick Adelman 15 years ago. Because you had the big and Andrew Bogut who could kind of be that guy, like Vladi. You had Draymond Green taking on the Weber role. And you had these sharpshooting guards who could move without the ball. They're super unselfish. And it all just worked. What the Warriors did was just like 2.0 of what Adelman was doing a decade earlier, they just had the greatest shooting backcourt of all time.
Right. They were able to extend it a little bit, even past the three, with Steph and Clay. And then, I mean, they took more jumpers, and they were able to probably create a little bit more spacing. But in my research, I found that the 2019 Raptors really run the corners offense too.
It's all over. I mean, you have Marc Gasol
Right.
occupying that role. He's built perfectly for it. D'Antoni stole some stuff from Adelman just a couple years later. He cited Adelman, those Kings teams, as influence on what he was doing. And it gets into a larger conversation about Rick Adelman, which in our pre-planning, meetings that we had prior to the pod now, I think we sleep on Rick Adelman as like
Absolutely.
an all-time kind of presence as a coach in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean his offensive philosophy is obviously stuck around over 20 years, and he got into the league with instant success. He started coaching the Trailblazers, and they went to 2 finals under his watch. And you think he was a little bit of a journeyman between the Blazers and Sac, but he really did a nice job of going into any organization and improving their offense, and creating this identity of ball and player movement where it wasn't so ISO dominant, which you see a lot now, but back in the early 2000s, it really, coming out of the triangle, it was a lot of ISO, especially like, we love that mid post. And it wasn't necessarily free flowing and let's create space and let's have a lot of player movement. It stuck. So yeah, I was very impressed with his resume after really doing some research, and he also looks like the professor from Scary Movie 2. So like that's a cool little
Definitely some Tim Curry vibes.
the turtleneck,
it's funny.
Sports coat. Yeah.
I'm Professor Oldman. Each of you have been carefully selected to be in this class, for which you receive an automatic grade of A upon completion. Now, this year's study is insomnia. We are going to spend a weekend together where we've established a controlled environment in which we'll study your various sleep disorders. Now, I'll be passing out directions.
I can do it. I can myself do it.
Now, you should all be there by 6 p.m. tonight and plan to stay through Monday. I'll see you all this evening.
Yeah.
It's so weird that you sent me that independently, and in my notes, I had already put he gave off serious English professor vibes with the sport coat and the turtleneck. It was a great look.
Absolutely.
But yeah, one of only 6 coaches in NBA history with 1,000 regular season wins and a winning record in the playoffs. 11 seasons with at least 50 regular season wins. Only Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, Jerry Sloan, and Don Nelson have more. Like, it makes perfect sense, even without the championship ring, that he should have been a no-brainer Hall of Famer, and he was. And it was completely well-deserved. Also unrelated to the game and his coaching career, in my research, I found out that in the preseason of his rookie year as a player, he broke his jaw and played the first couple months of his rookie season in the NBA wearing a hockey mask.
Amazing.
Which, just like Jason Voorhees on the basketball court, is just wild to think about. It makes me think that maybe
I don't want to guard the guy with the hockey mask. Like, bro, get out of here.
I don't know, right?
But
no. It makes me think that maybe we need to go back to like the 60s and 70s with season 2 of NBA Campfire and just uncover some wild shit that was happening.
Absolutely. I mean, never would have thought that we had a hockey mask. I've I've seen like some weird gloves for like hand injuries, but maybe the mask for like broken noses, but the straight hockey mask, impressive. And like, well, how do you see all of it? But overall, yeah,
How do you breathe?
right. So I guess,
You're running up and down the court. How do you like?
yeah,
Props to Rick
Yeah.
Adelman, tough dude,
absolutely,
hell of a coach,
absolutely,
snappy dresser.
yeah, solid overall. Can't really, no knocks on him other than maybe he didn't win the big one, but I guess to kind of go back to the game though, the game six. Um, what were some of the, like your takeaways throughout the game? One of the first things I noticed um, early on in the first quarter was how aggressive Kobe was, and actually the broadcaster he mentioned that Phil kind of let Kobe loose early, and he had 9 and 5 through 6 minutes. He picks up the two fouls, and that kind of slows him down, and then Shaq gets going. But I felt like from the time the Portland series in 2000 to this series now, those two specifically, well, more Kobe than Shaq. Shaq was dominant in 2000, but Kobe just looked more comfortable. He looked more like older Kobe in his body.
Yeah.
Like he, beefed up a little bit, filled out. His jumper seemed more comfortable. His stats don't really show it. I think he shot actually a little worse from the field in 2002 than he did in 2000 and 2001. But everything just started to seem very comfortable for him, and then obviously Shaq was Shaq.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it was like as soon as he got rid of the mini fro, he became. It was like the next. It was the evolution of Kobe.
Yep.
He became like the next version of himself, and I completely agree. There was an aggressiveness that didn't feel quite as reckless,
Right,
as it did in 2000. And, that comes with 2 more years being in the NBA, 2 championships under your belt. You've gotten over the hump, and just continued improvement overall. Like you said, the jumper looked better, even if the percentages don't say that. I would imagine he's been empowered at that point to take more contested jumpers and do a little bit more work in the regular season, because Shaq's regular season numbers went down a little bit from 2000 to 2002. More of the burdens on Kobe. He's just capable of handling more. And like we said at the top, you could make the case in 2002 that he's the second best player in the world. You don't make that case in 2000. He's a third-team All-NBA player. He's indisputably one of the best under 21, 22, however old he is at that point, guys in the world. But he, by 2002, by this series, he's matured into a guy can be the alpha on a great team. And he just so happened to be playing alongside another guy who had already proven that as well.
and I felt like Game 6 did a really amazing job of kind of showcasing that, because it felt like at points it was the Lakers were just playing pick your poison with Shaq and Kobe. I mean, they combined for 72 points, and it was kind of like you had this unbelievable force on the Lakers offense with these two guys, and then the Kings offense was this team structure, really nice flowing, and they battled. Like this game was, although it was very controversial, it was a good game. I don't think that the game was tainted by the refs or anything like that. You look at the stats and you're like, oh my goodness, but the game itself, the gameplay, it didn't feel choppy, or it felt like a good game.
I completely agree. And we're gonna get more into the quality of play in the game in my big takeaway. I want to save that a little bit. But yeah, to your point, like 2 different philosophies, obviously, in 2 different ways that these teams were built. But Sacramento, they were going punch for punch with the Lakers. And like, one thing I found interesting just about the way the game was played, Sacramento defended Shaq so differently than Portland did.
Yes.
They were content, like, okay, big man, you get yours. We're not going to double you. The first double that I saw in this game was in the third quarter. They weren't sending a bunch of help like the Blazers were in 2000.
No, and they
And obviously the stats at the end of the game show that. Shaq had 41 and 17. But it was almost like they were, and I would love to know what the thought with this was, but it was almost like they were trying to like rope-a-dope Shaq
tire him out.
into getting his early and just wear him out.
Yeah.
And they made a point during the broadcast that Shaq's fourth quarters throughout the series hadn't been great. And it made me think, like, maybe this is just like Adelman's daring them, go to Shaq early on. If he's going to play 44 minutes a game, he's not going to be able to keep up this pace the whole time.
Absolutely. I thought that it was a complete contrast in how the Trailblazers guarded him. I mean, and also the team makeup was a little bit different. Like I noted in the fourth quarter, the Kings were playing Bobby Jackson and Mike Bibby. I mean, that's two 6'1" guys. I think at that point they didn't want Peja in the game, so they had Doug Christie and Weber and Vlade, or Weber and Pollard. And that's just so much smaller than what Portland was. And I don't think that they had the big physical bodies of Portland to bang with Shaq and keep him out of the low post. And his positioning was just unbelievable. It's like every time he got it, he was around the basket able to score. And I think the Kings were like, all right, well, we don't have the roster to really, solve this problem. So let's space the floor. Let's, try to get him out of the paint. And let's just basically let him punch his way into, being exhausted, like Rocky did. And Rocky, was it Rocky 3, right? With Mr. T?
Oh, yeah, Clubber Lang, yeah.
Yep.
Hey, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing?
It's strategy, that's all. I know what I'm doing.
No, you don't know. He's got to come to you. You're the champ. It's nothing. He's not. You stand toe to toe with this partner, he'll kill you. It doesn't take a man to stand there and get your head beat off. Don't.
Tired. He's getting tired.
Don't wasting your punches. You're the champ. Don't try to take him out with one punch. Use your head. And you wear him down. He's all ours.
But unfortunately, Shaq didn't get tired.
No.
That just seemed like that
he did
was
not.
the way they were going to go about it. But it did work. I mean, like Vlade kind of gave the Lakers fits on the offensive end because he was able to extend it out and hit some jumpers, and so yeah, it's a good strategy.
Can I make a point about Vlade, and then we'll get back to the way that the Kings played specifically against the
absolutely.
Lakers. You know how when we compare players, and you want to be complimentary, but you don't want to go too far with hyperbole. The common is like, oh, he's the poor man's whoever. Like Evan Mobley is the poor man's Kevin Garnett. I feel like Vlade Divac is the homeless man's Nikola Jokic. Like he's like weathered. He's been through a war.
Mm-hmm.
He has a nicotine and alcohol dependency. But there's still traces of Jokic there, just with like the creativity with the ball, the nice shooting touch from outside. I loved his game. I think he's so much fun. I know that people hate all the flopping, and like I get it. However, one of the greatest compliments that I've ever been paid in my life was from our uncle, who told me that I am the greatest flopper in high school basketball that he's ever seen. So I'm cool with it. Vlade, do your thing. I appreciated his game. But
especially going
anyway.
against Shaq, though, too. Like, right? I mean, yeah, obviously it's annoying when you're flopping. But like, also you're getting hit by a semi truck coming down the lane. Like, you're gonna move a little bit, and like I that's why like I didn't notice the fouls really like tallying up, because Shaq's so big. They all seemed like it could be a foul like that. That's what I didn't really, I didn't get that vibe. But yeah, no, I could kind of see the Joker comparison, like you said, homeless or maybe like a junior high version. Um, but really, like Kobe got going early in the first, and then Shaq just started to dominate. And Shaq, I think, ended the first with what 21 or so. I think it was something like that. And it was Vlade in the second quarter. It was Vlade and Hidu that really kind of like paced the Kings. Bibby was struggling. He couldn't get a shot going. They said he was dealing with some tricep injury. But the Kings went up at half, up five. And it was three at the buzzer from Vlade, and he also had a couple of like drives to the basket. He had a couple of putbacks, nice passes. So overall, he really was a mismatch on the offensive end for Shaq. They just had no answer for him in the post, except for the third quarter, and you mentioned it. They did hold them to six. They held them to 6 points in the third quarter, and they did start to double. It didn't really appear, though, like Shaq was having any issue. It just didn't seem like he was all that aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, Vlade isn't as big as Sabonis, and you don't have the length on the perimeter that Portland did. So you're just not going to have the success bothering him like the Blazers were able to. But what I think one thing that Sacramento did well that probably lended itself to why in this series Shaq was getting off to so many really impressive starts, but then petered out toward the end of the game. They played at a pace that Portland didn't, and really no other team was playing as fast, as consistently as Sacramento was in 2002. Like the pace in this game, there were 97 possessions, and there were 85 in the Western Conference Finals that we did last week. So it was a significantly faster paced game. And that's kind of the way that you combat a team like the Lakers. You run up and down a little more. And every single one of the Kings players were out there getting out on the break. So you're just putting constant pressure on LA that way.
Yeah.
I think is part of the reason why they were able to have so much success against the Lakers, consistently be a thorn in their side, and you're able to withstand just the avalanche that Shaq is in that time period.
Absolutely. And I thought that they did a really good job in the third quarter of, hanging around and just going back and forth a little bit. I know they were up 5 to start the quarter, but then Kobe gets going. He scores 9. But overall, they kind of just hang around. They keep playing their offense. They keep getting good shots. I think, Bibby comes alive. He scores 10 in that quarter. And then it gets us to the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter. So the fourth quarter on YouTube, I think, takes about 30 minutes to finish. And it starts off with, again, it's tied.
It's a long watch, yeah.
Yep, it's tied. Shaq gets scoring right away with 2 free throws. And we'll talk about the free throws, but to me, it felt like, and you mentioned it in our first pod, the Lakers found the switch against Portland. And to me, in the fourth quarter, they went ahead and they turned that switch on. And it just felt like the Kings were a little out of sync. They didn't feel, maybe their stars didn't feel as comfortable as the Lakers did. I know Weber and Bibby combined for 14 in the fourth, but Shaq and Kobe combined for 23. And it just kind of felt like they asserted their dominance a little bit in that quarter.
And yes, they did. And there were 16 fouls called on the Kings in that fourth quarter. That is problematic, especially because I counted 5 that were just legitimately egregious calls that they just shouldn't have been fouls on Sacramento. Or like the famous one is Kobe with the elbow to Bibby's chin on an inbound that nowadays would have been a flagrant on Kobe, and it's called on Bibby. But to play devil's advocate and to give credit to the Lakers, they played a more physical brand of basketball than the Kings. And it's the point you made about Shaq is he's getting hit and pounded and grabbed every single play. From start to finish.
Right.
So officiating him is a nightmare to begin with. But yeah, I mean, I think both things could be true. The officiating in the fourth quarter was fishy. Yes. But at the same time, if any team in the league is going to get the benefit of that whistle in 2002, just based on the way that they play, it's going to be the Lakers. Right or wrong, it's the truth.
Yep. And, you know, again, you mentioned it. There was the fouls, and it was the free throws. 27 free throws in the fourth quarter for the Lakers. Kings shoot 9. So it's just, that's a hard, you know, you give up that many more free throws to a team in a quarter. It's hard to really withstand that. But so with the controversy, there were a couple of calls throughout the game that just seemed fishy. Obviously, at the end, the calls that you were talking about in the fourth quarter were like, what's going on? One of the calls that I really was like, whoa, was when Weber gets his 5th foul. Kings are up 2 with 3 minutes left in the game. Weber gets a 15-foot post touch, faces up, rips, goes to the basket, and they hit him with a offensive, give the ball to the Lakers. The next trip down the floor, there's a loose ball. Vlade gets hit with a loose ball foul. He's fouled out. That he picks up his 6th. Lakers go to the line. They tie it. And that was like the sequence where it was like, if you're going to show me a sequence that I will be like, oh boy, the refs are in trouble there, that's probably the one.
Okay. So, Vin, different background, technical difficulties. Where we left off, Weber called for an offensive foul. I had in my notes, looked like a little bit of a flop, and by a little bit, I mean this was a flop.
Can I stop you quick?
Was that?
Yeah, that I was gonna say.
Scouting report.
You mentioned it before. I'll agree with that. Yeah, if Sonny goes to the basket, hands up, playing with your chest, show your hands, you will get to the free throw line. No, you were awesome at drawing fouls. So shout out to you on that one. I agree with I was Uncle Joe maybe, but whoever gave you the compliment, I agree with for sure.
What's up? I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. Okay. Yeah. Bye.
If we want to go take 4, I could tell you.
Take 4.
Yeah, good you were at drawing fouls because you were really good at it.
I'll take the compliments however many times you want to give them. I mean, I'm having a ball over here, just reliving Elba getting our asses kicked by Notre Dame every time we played you guys. But I'm glad to hear that I had a key spot on the scouting report.
Absolutely, no, it was definitely hands. Keep him off the foul line for sure. Don't let him get to the
ours on you is just don't leave him open for the love of God. Don't leave him open, and we didn't do a great job with that.
I let your coach know every time he left me open too, which is not good. I shouldn't have done that, but at 17 I did that.
We should point out here that a big part of the reason why this game has come under so much scrutiny was what happened with Tim Donaghy a few years later. So I'll read what I found. On June 10th, 2008, convicted NBA referee Tim Donaghy's attorney filed a court document alleging that Game 6 was fixed by 2 referees. The letter states that Donaghy, quote, learned from referee A that referees A and F wanted to extend the series to 7 games. Tim knew referees A and F to be, quote, company men, always acting in the interest of the NBA. And on that night, it was in the NBA's interest to add another game to the series. Now, it was fishy before that happened, before, 2008, when all this stuff comes out with Tim Donaghy fixing games and giving insider information to bettors about various NBA games, some which he was calling, some which he wasn't. But even at the time, there was a reaction from writers around the NBA, just how bad the officiating was down the stretch. Mike Wilbon, who was writing for the Washington Post at the time, he wrote about it. He said that he wrote down in his notebook that there were 6 calls that were, quote, stunningly incorrect, all against Sacramento, all in the fourth quarter, when the Lakers made 5 baskets and 21 foul shots. Bill Simmons, who we know is not the biggest Lakers fan in the world, he wrote about it too. He made a great joke that there were rumors that David Stern wanted to pull a Vince McMahon and declare himself the special guest referee for this game.
Do you think he would have came out to a theme song like No Chance or like?
I don't know why he didn't do it at the NBA draft.
I know, right?
In all honesty, because by the end of his tenure as the commissioner, he was like waving the crowd to boo him more. He leaned all the way into it.
Absolutely.
So I don't know why he didn't come out to No Chance in Hell. Like that's a huge missed opportunity. Maybe like a copywriting thing with WWE didn't work out, right. But he absolutely could have pulled that off. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, I had 5 calls that I felt like were legitimately like you're looking at it and you're like, I don't want to believe that there was something that going on behind the scenes here, and you don't. Like I just don't. I want to believe that like the NBA didn't have a hand in anything that we were watching from this time period, but like this wasn't the only game or series that refs came under fire during this era. The year before, the Eastern Conference Finals, Philadelphia and Milwaukee, I don't have the numbers up in front of me, but the number of calls that went against Milwaukee in that series compared to Philadelphia is wild. It's even bigger than like this series, LA, Sacramento. There's not one specific game, I don't think, but there's something like there were 8 technical fouls called against Milwaukee in that series and none on Philadelphia. I want to say that Philadelphia shot like twice as many free throws throughout the series than Milwaukee did. So there's like already a track record going into this game. And then the fact that it is LA, the biggest market that the NBA has, 2 of the league's biggest stars, and you get that 7th game as a result of it, it doesn't look great. It just doesn't. It doesn't. Whether there is something going on behind the scenes or not, we'll never know. But
it doesn't look great, and with the comment that he made, it certainly, makes it a much bigger story, and still, I mean, to this day, people still talk about it. But what I will say is, like, Game 7, the free throws were even. So I think LA shot 33, Sacramento shot 30. Maybe it's just me believing, no, there's no way that the Lakers would have lost this if, things were different with refs. It certainly was a black eye to the league, but I do think that the series was decided on the floor. I do.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
And Bill Walton on the call, the first of 5 consecutive Bill Walton, or the second of 5 consecutive Bill Walton games we're going to have, he made a point early on in the game, before anything fishy was going on. He noted that in the first 5 games of the series, the team that shot more free throws won the game. So that means Sacramento shot more free throws in 3 of the games in the series. So you can't say it was a start to finish, the league was looking to put the Lakers in the finals. If they were, I don't think that that's the case.
No, and you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, what I was going to say, there was a 2014 oral history written on this game for Grantland. And Ted Bernhardt, who was one of the 3 referees with Dick Bavetta and Bob Delaney, he said that he felt like there wasn't any like league memo to the officials of, we're trying to get this to a game 7, we're trying to get this team in the finals. But he did come right out and say, I thought my partners sucked.
That's awesome.
So like,
Right.
both things could, like, it could be true that the Lakers benefited from a whistle in this game, but also true that the league didn't necessarily like actually push them into the finals or push this game into a game 7. And I think ultimately that's where I stand. Is that Sacramento just unfortunately was on the wrong end of an unfavorable whistle in this game.
I would agree. And I think that to go off of Walton's, prediction or call out, whatever, in Game 6 when he stated that, if the team shoots more free throws, they're going to win. Just to note, like, the Lakers shot 81% from the free throw line in Game 7, and the Kings shot 61%.
Left a lot of points on the board.
Weber shot 46% from the free throw line this series. So, like, yes, the Lakers took more, but they also shot better, where if the Kings, if they're around that 80% marker, I don't know if this is as big of a story. But because the Lakers capitalized when they were at the line, it obviously takes the headline.
And, it's important to note, there was a Game 7 after this in Sacramento.
And all the stars showed out for that one.
Yeah, and Sacramento had a chance. It went to overtime. They had chances late in the game to put that away.
Yeah.
But, the story of that game, Shaq scores 35, Kobe scores 30, Bibby has 29. Weber had a pretty quiet 20.8 rebound, 11 assist game. Plays very passive. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, brings us to the Weber conversation, because that was one of the things that you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about, and I think we need to, because we know Kobe's standing in NBA history. We know Shaq's. Weber's it's murky. Like, there could be differing opinions on the Chris Webber legacy, and I'm interested in knowing what your take is on him in this game, in this series, and just his career arc as a whole. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, what's the book on him?
So first off, for the game, I thought Game 6 he was phenomenal. We'll just start there. But like overall, I thought his ability is what stood out to me. He had legitimate point guard skills. He had the ability to handle the ball. He was a really good passer. He was an inconsistent jump shooter, but he was a bigger, stronger, athletic 6'9", 6'10", playmaker out of the 4 spot. He did win a lot early on. Obviously, the Fab Five in Michigan. Goes to 2 Final Fours there. Ends on a really poor note. And I think that carries weight even to this day. I think that one of the first things people think about with Weber is the timeout. But then he gets drafted to Golden State, wins Rookie of the Year. They go to the playoffs. He gets traded to Washington, goes to the playoffs, comes to Sacramento, and probably has like 3 of his best years in his career, his first couple of years in Sac. I think he had a 3-year peak where he averaged about 25, 11, and 5 from 99 to 2002. But ultimately, with all of that ability and all of that skill and talent, he was only on the All-NBA team, first team once. He was a 5-time All-Star, made second-team All-NBA 3 times, but his team never won. And it just kind of felt like he didn't have the amount of success that someone in his body with that ability should have had. And it could be just he was in the West with Lakers and Kobe and Shaq. But it does seem a little underwhelming. But his skill level, it jumps out at the screen when you're watching it.
He's uniquely talented in a way that even in an era where he was competing with power forwards like Duncan, Dirk, KG, tail end of Karl Malone's prime.
Yep.
His skill set was unique even compared to all those guys. He was capable of doing things, especially as a passer, that none of those guys could do on a consistent basis. It just felt like there was something missing with him. And I don't know, I don't want to do the whole like clutch gene thing. I don't think that is necessarily a thing, but like, is it an accident that like the 93 national championship game, he calls the timeout that they don't have? In game 5, the Kings are down 1 in this series. The Kings are down 1 with 20 seconds to go. And he attacks the basket, just falls over, loses the ball, and it just so happens to glance off of Robert Horry. It just seemed like time and time again, in any kind of big moment, he, for whatever reason, just didn't deliver. And that could be bad luck. It could be he's just not the caliber of player that someone like, KG was, that Duncan was, Shaq and Kobe. But it was just like he never could quite reach that next level of greatness. 2004, it kind of really summarizes his career. They played Minnesota in round 2. KG's the MVP that year. Game 7, Weber has a 16, 8, and 4, and he goes 0 for 3 from the free throw line. He finishes with 32 and 21 and 5 blocks. And it just, I don't know if it's that Weber just needed some of that, like, nasty KG fuck you attitude. I don't know, maybe it's that was missing, but like,
I feel like a lot of it has to do with just his jumper. I don't think that he had a consistent enough jumper to be a legitimate first option scorer late in the game. And
he also, I agree with you, he wasn't like a physical kind of post presence like Duncan was, or like Shaq is an unfair comparison, but like,
well, I also don't think, he wasn't as big as Duncan either.
No,
so
he wasn't.
Was
you're absolutely right.
Undersized to play the 4 in that era. He'd be a perfect 4 now, I think, or 5 even, like a small.
I was gonna say I think
Draymond,
like you could get away with him as a small ball 5.
He's a Draymond-esque player who could certainly play point forward. He just couldn't score as well as some of the more dominant players, like you talked about Duncan and KG and Malone. And all of those, I felt like game on the line, you could get them the ball. Obviously, don't think of KG with Boston, think of him in Minnesota when he was really more of a scorer. And I just felt like the Kings, they kind of had to go to Bibby. he just didn't have that scoring mentality, and I think he just had an inconsistent jump shot for his whole career, and obviously that's something that maybe could have worked on, and that would have certainly took him to the next level of stardom. But I think he is overall probably overlooked, honestly, with just the ability that he had, because I don't think people
I would agree.
think of Weber as a legitimate star. But like I was listening to, they had NBA TV had the Open Court, which used to be a solid show, and they had Shaq,
so great,
Barkley, and Reggie were all talking about Weber, and they all said that he should be in the top 50, which I thought was pretty strong coming from his peers. And they just talked about his skill. So his skill was really high level. I think he would translate in any era, but without his development of having that last second scoring, mentality, he doesn't, make it to that next level of star.
There's one interesting what if with his career too. So Kings lose to the Lakers in 2002. The next year they come back. Weber averages 23, 10.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, a steal and a half a game that year. The Kings have the 6th best offensive rating in the league, 2nd best defensive rating, and 2nd best net rating in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And they're playing Dallas in the 2nd round. And Weber has a season-ending knee injury. And the Kings still push the Mavs to 7 in that series. Mm-hmm. Even with Weber not even playing 2 full games. And the Spurs on the other side of the bracket take care of the Lakers. I can't help but wonder if Weber just doesn't have that knee injury. Is 2003 maybe the year they get over the hump? Just because they don't need to deal with the Lakers. Right. Maybe they have a little bit easier time matching up with San Antonio, and they get over the hump, they beat New Jersey, and then we're having a completely different Chris Webber discussion. Where I think if at that point, if he's a 23, 10, and 5 guy, even if the numbers in the playoffs dip a little bit, which they did consistently for him throughout his career, he's still the fulcrum of that team.
Right.
He's still the guy who, as we were pointing out before, you're running the offense through him. He's facilitating so much of it. He's giving you a double-double every night. Like, we're just having a completely different conversation about him if that's the case. He's a no-brainer top 50 guy, I think, at that point, if he has that postseason run in it.
Absolutely. No, it's and like I think they were built to have that run with him. When, like you said, it's crazy to think at that time the Lakers were kind of on their downward trajectory. And he definitely could have capitalized. But just speaking of the Lakers kind of ending their dominance, I thought it was pretty crazy, and I think it kind of explains a little bit as to why. But they go and they win 3 in a row. And after the three-peat, Shaq's beat up. And his body can't do it. He misses the first 12 games of the season. And Kobe just goes bananas in that first 12 games. I think he's averaging about 37 and 6. And then they bring Shaq back into the mix, and they tell Kobe, all right, time to kind of reel it back in. We got the big fella, let's get him going. And I feel like at that point is when that's like the start of like, uh-oh. Because Kobe got a taste of, well, no, I could do this on my own. I'm the one who comes into camp in shape. We've heard all the stories. Yep. And Shaq's still like, well, I'm the best player in the league. We just won 3 championships because of me. And I felt like that 2003 season is like that first 12 games was the almost the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kobe, I feel like he came out and said like that's where all the tension in the back half of that run started. Because Shaq was very vocal. He was like, I'm getting my surgery on company time. Because he could have opted to have it like right after the 2002 playoffs. He waits until right before the start of the season. He's like, I'm going to rehab on company time. Kobe, being the just absolutely maniacal competitor that he is, it didn't sit right. They start lobbing shots at each other in the media, publicly and privately, and things just get really nasty. And they get beat by San Antonio in the 03 playoffs. I want to say they lose game 6 in LA by like close to 30 points. I have it. They lose by 28. The next year they come back with Karl Malone. They have Gary Payton. And it's a so-so regular season. Kobe's got the off-court stuff going on in Colorado. Shaq just isn't quite the same guy. Malone's at a different stage of his career. Peyton never totally fits. But they still get to the finals. They survive San Antonio in round 2 with the Fisher shot. They get past KG in the Western Conference Finals. And again, bringing it back to the Kings really quickly, that was a conference final series that the Kings very well could have played in. They still pushed Minnesota to 7 in the second round, even with Weber coming back only a couple months before the start of the playoffs. He's not totally right coming back from knee surgery. And they still push Minnesota to a really tight game 7. There are a lot of different sliding doors moments in the Western Conference from 2002 on, and really dating back to our first podcast. Like that 2000 game could have went a completely different way too.
Yeah, it just felt like,
and then it ends
and
then like what should have been a duo that stayed together through the extent of Shaq's post-prime, because he had a few good years after that. You know, wins a title with the Heat. He, I think, finishes MVP runner-up in the 05 season, his first year with Miami. Even into his time with Phoenix, he was still all NBA caliber center.
Yeah, he was an all-star in 2009.
Yeah. But it blows up in truly spectacular fashion. Shaq gets traded, Phil leaves, Malone retires, Peyton goes, and then you have Kobe on these weird, not so competitive Lakers teams where he's just an absolute scoring machine, and we're going to get to that down the line.
Right.
But it's just kind of sad that it couldn't last longer than it did.
And you know what's weird is I don't know if it helped or hurt Kobe's legacy. And we'll get into obviously that later down, but just and the reason I say it is because I mean from 99 to 2004, the Lakers were must-see TV. Everyone watched them. Shaq and Kobe, amazing duo. Shaq leaves. It's 2004. Kobe's getting to that like 25-ish, 26-ish year, he's 26 or so. And I feel like he's in his prime, and his prime years are wasted. Like, he caught the tail end of his prime on solid teams, but really after Shaq leaves, they don't pick up the pieces for probably too long. And I do feel like we kind of don't get the full Kobe experience. And that's why probably he doesn't have more than one MVP. I think, the off-court allegations certainly don't help his cause. But, those first couple of years after Shaq, they're just... LA didn't do too much to help him out, and Felt like, it was his team and that's what he wanted, and he got to kind of do whatever, and he did a lot of Kobe things, but it did kind of just feel like we missed out on a lot of those years.
We're not going to talk about Shaq again. What do you come away from these two games, your feelings on Shaq, compared to what you thought of him as a player and just as like a presence in the NBA before we did the rewatch? Yep.
So just to go back a little bit on the Kobe-Shaq relationship, there was a quote that I thought was very interesting in that interview that they did. And Shaq's the one telling the story, and he says that Kobe, the first time they met, told him, "I'm going to be the best player in the NBA. The history of the NBA. Like, I'm going to be the best." Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was, like, it just hit me because I feel like if Shaq had that mindset, with his, just everything about Shaq, his skill, his size, his athleticism, I sincerely think he would have been the best player in basketball history. After watching these games, these two games, he's just the most physically dominant athlete I think I've ever seen in any sport. Maybe outside Bonds that year he had 73, where it was just like he's just playing, like he's just different. Like he's the varsity kid playing on JV. And he doesn't need to worry about like, oh, my shot's not falling that day, because he just could get whatever shot he wanted. He had amazing footwork. He had amazing skill. He's obviously huge and athletic. He won 4 championships. He brought 3 teams to titles. He's probably one of the best. He is one of the best centers ever. But like, I think he could have been the best player ever. Like, that's what I was watching. Like, oh my gosh, you really couldn't stop him. Like, with Kobe, with Jordan, with LeBron, and Will, or maybe not Will, but, Bird, whoever you want to throw in the greatest of all time, like, you could scheme to have them take tough shots. You can't scheme Shaq. He's just too big. It is incredible. What were your takeaways?
I'm with you. I mean, what you're saying, Bill Simmons actually wrote about it in his book of basketball. He said that Shaq is the guy who went to college and could have got a 4.0, but partied and didn't really care about classes and ended up leaving with a 3.7 anyway. Yep. It kind of, that is like a perfect description of Shaq's NBA career. He walks away with an MVP, 4 titles, without question one of the, I would say, 15 best players' careers in the NBA.
Absolutely.
And it does feel like he left a lot on the table. It feels like if he ever had that Kobe mindset, he, like what you're saying, he could have walked away as the most dominant guy and maybe the best career that we've ever seen. It didn't work out like that. And to me, that is part of the reason why I watch these games, and I wish we could have seen a version of all this play out where just Shaq and Kobe, their differences don't end up fracturing them as a duo, because like we could have gotten a more extended prime from Shaq if he just like took some of that from Kobe. And could they have won 5 rings if things go differently? I think that's in play. They could have been the 2000s version of the 60s Celtics, and I don't think it would have been
I'll take it
like a huge shot.
They would have won 4 or 5 if Kobe just never gets in trouble. So then, because I think that 04 season, he was flying in and out of Colorado and playing games like the same day he was going to court. Like that.
Right.
And they still made it to the finals, and frankly, like they lost to the Pistons. Pistons we'll get into next pod. I still think like you got Shaq, you got Kobe. There's no legal issues. you figure it out. You get to play more. Like Kobe missed some time that year, and I just think they do it. So if you're gonna say Shaq's bought in, they could win 6 or 7.
Yeah, who the hell
Right.
knows? If Shaq is just wired a little differently, and if Kobe avoids the legal trouble, honestly, even if like this is a small thing, but if Karl Malone doesn't get hurt in the finals that year, that series might end up going differently. Not to take anything away from Detroit, because they win that title, they have a hell of a run, they make 5 or 6 consecutive Eastern Conference Finals. Like, they have their place at the table. They are one of the defining teams of the decade, but there's definitely a version of this Lakers run where they get to that finals and potentially steamroll Detroit or whoever the hell is in their way. Just like they did to New Jersey in 2002, like they did to Philadelphia the year before. Yeah, just watching Shaq, I felt like I came away from these 2 games feeling like he's underrated as a passer. Mm-hmm. He's underrated as an athlete, just like how well he could move. I think the tail end of his career changed people's perceptions of him a little bit. He was so athletic in the prime of his career.
And I think that like he was a good defender because of that. And people don't when people think Shaq, I don't think they think necessarily defense, but like he really did a good job protecting their rim. And he did. Yeah, that was a good.
Also, his durability was underrated. He averaged 38.7 minutes per game in the 3 title seasons. And the last thing, every round of so here are Shaq's regular season numbers. 2000, 2001, 2002. 28.6 points, 12.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2.6 blocks. Then you take his numbers in the playoffs. Points go up to 29.9. Rebounds go up to 14.5. 3 assists, 2.5 blocks a game. Then in the finals, 35.8 points, 15.2 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 3.1 blocks per game. He's getting better and better
as the year goes,
and more dominant the deeper they get into the postseason.
Yeah. And that's why, like, that he could talk his stuff. He's very loud currently in the media at how he wants people to play, and like, I can't necessarily, no one could necessarily say much to him because he did it and he backed it up with his play. It's just like if he could have just did that for his career, like his outlook on his career, if he was just thinking that way, things would have been different. But I also think like part of what makes Shaq great currently was that he wasn't like Kobe. Like he wanted to rap and he wanted to be in movies and he wanted to be goofy. And like he's just a really great character in the NBA over the last 100 years. He's a huge staple in the league, and I think that all the respect should go to him. He maybe didn't take it as serious as some of the all-time greats, but like you said, like when it got to be go time, he was ready. So you can't knock him there.
No, absolutely. All right. Do you have one big takeaway?
Yes.
On the game?
Absolutely. So the Clippers probably won't agree with this right now.
Can we pause? Yeah. I have no idea where you're going. I did not expect a Clippers mention in your one big takeaway. I'm riveted. I can't wait to hear what you're about to say.
So the Clippers might disagree with me. But if you have a chance to get 2 top players, like 2 top 10 players on your team, you have to take it. I regardless of the roster around it, like Shaq and Kobe were just, they were so powerful, and it just gives you such a better opportunity to win championships and just mix and match your role players. So, like, my one big takeaway is, especially in basketball, like, there's 5 guys on the court. If you could really get 2, like, dominant forces, it's just really, really, really hard to beat you. So, like, I know it doesn't work out all the time. And actually, currently, it's more of like you want a deep rotation with guys that are, not so heavy on, dominating the team scoring. Give me the 2 superstars. Give me the 2 stars. I think the Kings were a great, example of it. They had a great roster. Lakers had the 2 stars.
I think that's especially true when we're talking historically great stars.
Yep.
Because I think you could make a case where, like, if it's not the right guys at the right time, then maybe you have there are better ways to build your team. But these were the right guys at the right time.
Yep. What
even if there were better versions of Kobe to come, this was the best possible version for him to be playing with Shaq.
Yep. Yeah, he couldn't have played with Shaq in 2007. Like, it wouldn't have worked. So, and the way they paired these two, one through the draft, I think is super important too, because then you grow him so you could kind of decide when you want him to take an expanded role.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was like, looking at this, and I've looking at the league now, I wish teams would build more of a roster and not just look at stars. But after this, I was like, give me the stars. What about you?
Okay, so my big takeaway: where does this series rank on the all-time great postseason series? That was my takeaway. I don't know the answer to this. I'm interested in knowing off the top of your head what you think. But I think this series has to be on the short list, just in terms of quality of play, the stakes of the series, the atmosphere. Like you were saying, Arco Arena, the rivalry between these two teams, it gave like a college sort of atmosphere. And then just how close these games were.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, you just look.
You
at
had
the series. You
had the Ori game-winning shot, Game 4.
Yep.
It's a 1-point game with Bibby's game winner with 8 seconds left in Game 5. Game 6, which we covered, that ends up being a 4-point game. And then Game 7 goes to overtime. Lakers win by 6. There's only one game in the series that wasn't decided by 7 points or fewer. And these were the 2 best teams in the league. Full stop, no debate. In 2002, nobody will mistake the Nets, who made the finals, as being the second best team in the NBA. You're not going to do that. These were the 2 best teams. So I put together a short list, just factoring in everything. I feel like Kings Lakers 02, Cavs Warriors 2016. I'd also go Warriors Thunder 2016.
That's a great series.
Bucks Nets 2021, which I think people sleep on because it's like the post-COVID playoffs. It's a little bit later in the summer. That series was fucking excellent. All-timer performances by Giannis and Durant. And then Mavs Spurs 2006, I think you have to throw on there. And then the stakes aren't as high, but Celtics Bulls 2009, which was a series we considered covering and ultimately didn't. But just the quality of play in those games in a first-round series, like, that is indisputably the best first-round series in NBA playoff history. But yeah, that was my big takeaway. I don't think that you could make a list of 5 postseason series from 2000 on and not have this one on there.
You know what this one... When you said that, the first series that this kind of reminded me of was the Rockets-Warriors. Because, like, the Warriors had won, But like, I feel like throughout the year it was like, are the Rockets actually better than them? Like, they aren't, but like, are they going to actually do this? And then, yeah, the series goes, and it's like, find yourself rooting for the underdog a little bit, but then the champ pulls out on top. But yeah, you're right.
I was not rooting for the underdog a little bit in that series. I was rooting for the underdog a lot, because in January of that year, before we knew that the Rockets were going to have home court, I wrote a piece for Hardwood and Hollywood predicting that the Rockets were going to win the NBA title. Coming off of the Warriors' 67 win season, they go 16-1 in the playoffs. I really felt like the Rockets were going to win the title that year. So I was very openly rooting for Houston in that series, because I got all kinds of feedback from people after I wrote that saying, you're nuts. Nobody's beating this Warriors team in a 7-game series. We have one of those games on the schedule. So I'll get more into that, and I can't wait to talk about it. But yeah, that series could be mentioned too.
Absolutely.
On the short list.
The Kings Lakers series though was an awesome rewatch. It's crazy to think that it's probably it's the peak of the Lakers, right? I mean, they start to decline the year after, and they never get fully back. It's just crazy because you think after Jordan leaves, well, he comes back, but he's not, after Jordan leaves the Bulls, there's a clear empty throne. And then the Lakers take it, and it's like, oh, they might have this for 10 years. But then, like, I feel like culture doesn't necessarily, like, agree with it, and they're not necessarily the favorite team. So I'm really excited to talk about, maybe who that could be and who took the throne from Jordan after he left in our next pod. Because it's super interesting to me that, like, it just wasn't, oh, the Lakers are going to run the league for 10 years. They ran the league for 3, and maybe could have done it for longer, but we obviously talk about the Shaq and Kobe relationship, but excited to talk about who takes the throne of the pop culture of the NBA world next pod.
There are some interesting candidates, and I likewise am excited to get into it. One really important question before we go that I meant to get to earlier. I don't think we could do this game on the 2002 Kings without touching on it. Do you think Scott Pollard and Hedo Turkoglu went and dyed their hair together? Or did one of them do it first, and then the other guy was like, I'll hop on this train? Or how do you think that materialized?
The blonde tips were huge back in the day. Like, the early 2000s. I want to say they showed Brad Pitt in the stands, and he had the same haircut as Hedo. Scott Pollard was, like, on another level, though. Like, he took it to the next level, but frosted tips, I think we beat those years, right? I don't think either of us got frosted tips, did we?
No, I had the spiky hair. I never had the frosted tips. Yeah, I don't know what is more early 2000s, the frosted tips or Derek Fisher's headband over the ears.
Yep.
Two classic 2002 staples.
Absolutely. So you definitely rock that headband in 4th and 5th grade basketball. Did you do the deep fish, or were you?
I didn't do it over the ears.
My head was too big, so I couldn't wear a headband. I just went with the one armband actually on my leg. But rocking number 51 too. Yeah, that was the good old days, but
that's actually perfect that you said that. I have a photo that I could effortlessly throw into this video back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that was a very early 2000s thing. I never did the headband over the ears. Our cousin Gianni did the headband over the ears, but that wasn't my thing.
Absolutely.
It was
It
uncomfortable.
was very uncomfortable. Yeah, no, but it was super rad. Is that what they said in 2004? Maybe I don't know. I don't know the
I don't even
lingo
know.
there. I'll say now it's fire, right? It's the headband over the ears. Let's bring it back. I don't know who would do it. Maybe like LaMelo Ball or something.
He doesn't have much else going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Put him there with Con Knipple. They could both do it. Um, but overall, I thought it was a great rewatch. Super excited to keep this going. And it's always a pleasure, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Vin. It's a pleasure. Yeah, grab your marshmallows and a long ass stick. We'll be back next week for more NBA Campfire. Take care, buddy.
See you later.